Hello, my name is Shirgi, and in this video I'll be writing some sad and distant stuff for orchestra. I feel like I'm exclusively qualified to talk about this topic. I will be starting this project completely from scratch, so I'll be guiding you through my thought process and all the theory I use along the way. There ain't no sad sound in music without some lovely lush strings. Before we start writing down chords though, I'm going to tell you some very quick theory, and it will be very quick. I don't feel like making an infographic or something, so I'm just going to write it down in a notepad. There are 3 types of chords you got to know about: tonic, subdominant, and dominant. There are 3 types of tonic chords: 1, 3, and 6. There are 3 types of subdominant chords: 4, 2, and 6. There are 3 types of dominant chords: 5, 3, and 7. Chords like to move in a tension and release pattern, whereas subdominant and dominant chords are tension, and tonic is release. So chords generally like to move from tonic to dominant to tonic to subdominant to dominant to tonic, etc. So if we take a simple chord progression like 1, 6, 4, 5, 1, you can see the pattern in action here, where 1 is releasing the tension, 6 is kind of an in-between build-in and release tension, 4 and 5 are build-in tension, and then all the way back to 1, which releases that built-up tension. So now with this in mind, let's get to writing our chords. Sad music has to be slow, so I guess adagio it is. This can change later. It can be andante, could be grave, could be prestissimo. I was about to say that presto maybe doesn't sound so sad, but I forget that the entire repertoire of Chopin exists. We're in the key of G major here, or E minor. I think I'll just go with G major for today to make things easy. So let's start by writing out a G major chord. Let's make you nice and quiet. Let's listen to what that sounds like. Feel free to write these strings nice and closely packed together like this. I would also recommend putting some 2 notes in the cellos and have them play divisi. This means that you split the cello group in half, have half of the instruments play 1 note and have the other half play the other note. Even though there are less players playing at these lower volumes, you ain't really going to notice the difference. In a real setting though, if you have divisi strings playing something like forte, you will have a little bit of volume loss, but at piano, you really don't have to worry about it at all. So let's mark this chord we wrote here as 1, because it's the tonic chord of G major. Now before we move on, I think I need to make this chord sound a little bit sadder, so I think I'll just shift some of the notes around until it sounds sad. Nothing sadder than a major 7th, so F sharp, there you go. I'm also quite fond of the 9th. So I believe that's what, A, so I'll write an A somewhere here. That hardly even sounds like G major anymore, but close enough, I guess. Now let's move on to a tension building chord, like a dominant chord, like 3. I'm quite fond of 3. In the key of G major, that should be B minor. Let's add some fun extensions onto that by just shifting some of the notes around again as to my liking. Well, what about this? No, I don't like that. I don't want it to be too pure sounding just yet. I think you should save like the pure chord sound for when it like really needs to hit. I like the C sharp here. Something just came to me and said that I should write it, so I did. By the way, any notes that are the same, you should like not repeat and instead tie together, or in this case, since they're the same, I just decided to write them as whole notes. But especially if they're cross measure lines, you should tie the notes together, especially because they're being played in the strings. If they're being played in the winds, then you can kind of let them rest for a little bit by having no tie. But otherwise, if they're playing strings, just tie the notes together. It'll sound better and smoother moving from chord to chord. What about 4? So here in G, that should be C major. Really doesn't feel like that should be a major chord, right? Let's make it like a minor chord. No, I don't like that either. I kind of want to preserve the C sharp, so I'll make it C sharp. There you go. C sharp it is. Perfect. I don't really want it to be diminished, so I'll raise this G to a G sharp, making this a sharp 4 chord, minor 4. Let's build up to a big dominant chord here, so I think I'll just go with the good old 5. Let's write 5. Beautiful, I like that. Okay, try this. I feel like it's like rushing a little bit too quickly into this 5. So let's actually delay this 5 by a bar, and let's think about what chord should go here. Or maybe we could just continue this chord, like just extend it a little bit and... That feels a little better. I think there should be like a little bit of movement in these like violins. So F, I guess. No, I think moving from E to F sharp is very impactful, so someone else has got to move. Maybe you can move up to D. I don't like that very much. Maybe I have 2 A's here, so A here and A here. Okay, I can get behind that. After this dominant chord, there should probably be like a tonic chord, but I don't really want to move back to 1 just yet, so let's do 6. 6 should be E minor, so let's start off with that. Maybe I'll move you actually down to B instead of E. So you're still E minor, I just moved the bass note to the 5th, and I'll mark that with figured bass. You don't really need to know what this figured bass means, you can use whatever system you want. This is just the system I learned, so it's the one I use. Since the bass is now moving down, let's move all of the voices up. Have some of that wonderful contrary motion. But of course, I need to ruin it by adding some weirdness. So again, we'll do the very expert technique of just moving notes around until I like it. Move that E up, but move this, or keep this D here. No, I don't like that. Maybe C in the viola. I don't quite like that. Let's try adding an F. I kind of like that, but let's put that F in the cello instead. I like that more. Okay, I want to try making this chord a major chord, just for funsies. So that means I would change, if E minor is spelled E, G, B, then E major is spelled E, G sharp, B. So all those G's, which is exactly 1 G playing in this whole E minor chord, I'll raise that to G sharp. Oh, it definitely needs to move on to like a very pure minor chord, I think, or maybe even like an augmented chord. Let's do A here, which should be, what, in the key of G, that should be the 2 chord, but I said I wanted to try making it augmented, so I'm gonna do just that. I don't really like that as much as I thought I would. I really thought that would be more impactful, but let's just move you back to A major. Ooh, that definitely needs to be like a major 7 chord or something like that. Instead of major 7, have like a normal 7th chord. Okay, and now let's move to a dominant chord. So let's just do 7. And I eventually, after this, want to move back to 1, because that'll be 4 bars of stuff done. So in the key of G, the 7th note is F sharp. So let's have an F sharp minor chord. We already have the C sharp going anyway, so... Alright, what does this sound like? I don't really want it to fall on F sharp, because I don't like this kind of leading tone movement in the bass. I'd rather like have a nice jump from high to low or something. So instead, I'll put this on C sharp, which is the 5th again. So read the figured bass. And let's move you down to G here. I just noticed that the soprano and the bass are moving in the same way, and that is not good. Let's move you down to F sharp. And here we'll have G major, so, and now you sound like this. Ooh, this definitely needs to be like more tense. So let's add like a 9th or 13th or something. Here, let's move this D up to A. Yes, I really like that. Okay. So you're 1. And now let's listen to our chord progression. I really want actually this to move to B. Feels brighter that way. Yeah, I like that. Now also, I think to really ramp up the tension, I'm gonna have a beautiful crescendo. I think we'll do a beautiful crescendo up to this 7th chord here that I wrote. So let's just write all the crescendos here and then all the decrescendos. So I want y'all to crescendo up to forte and then decrescendo all the way back down to piano. Okay, now let's hear it with the dynamics. Oh, actually, before we do that, I think I'm going to slow the tempo a tiny bit. So right now you're at like 70-ish BPM. Let's move you down to like 60. Or maybe have the C move up to D, C sharp move up to D. Okay, okay, C sharp move down to B. Okay, I can get behind that. And actually, I think I would prefer you guys to do an even longer crescendo. So it's crescendo from the very beginning. So that was a very quick demo of me writing something kind of melancholic. I hope you enjoyed watching my process, and I really hope that you learned something. If you liked watching this video, then please subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys later. Bye bye!